The story of Rush begins not in a sprawling metropolis of rock and roll legend, but in the quiet suburbs of Willowdale, Toronto, back in 1968. It was here that a group of ambitious young musicians, guitarist Alex Lifeson and bassist and vocalist Geddy Lee, first joined forces with their original drummer, the late John Rutsey. Their initial sound was a far cry from the intricate progressive rock symphonies they would later become famous for. Instead, their music was steeped in the heavy, blues-infused rock of the era, drawing clear inspiration from British titans like Led Zeppelin and Cream. They were a raw, powerful, and determined garage band, honing their skills through countless hours of practice and playing gigs in local high schools and bars, slowly building a name for themselves within the Toronto music scene. Their early years were a testament to sheer grit and perseverance. The Canadian music landscape at the time was not particularly geared towards nurturing hard rock bands, but Lifeson, Lee, and Rutsey were undeterred. They possessed a work ethic that would become a hallmark of their entire career. Their live shows were energetic, loud, and showcased a burgeoning musical chemistry. Geddy Lee's distinct, high-pitched vocals became an immediate identifier, cutting through the heavy distortion of Lifeson's guitar and the driving rhythm of Rutsey's drums. This initial lineup was responsible for forging the band's foundational identity, laying the groundwork for what was to come with their self-titled debut album, released in 1974 on their own independent label, Moon Records. The debut album, Rush, was a solid slab of hard rock, featuring straightforward anthems like Finding My Way and the enduring classic Working Man. The latter track, with its powerful riff and relatable blue-collar theme, resonated deeply with listeners in Cleveland, Ohio, thanks to airplay from DJ Donna Halper at WMMS. This unexpected American support was the crucial break the band needed, leading to a record deal with Mercury Records and a wider release of their album. It was a pivotal moment that propelled them out of the local Toronto circuit and onto the international stage. But it also marked a significant turning point in their internal dynamics and musical trajectory. However, just as the band was on the cusp of greater success, a major change was imminent. John Rutsey, who had been with the band from the very beginning, decided to leave shortly after the release of their debut album. His departure was attributed to a combination of health concerns, particularly diabetes, and a growing unease with the demanding lifestyle of a touring musician. While his contribution to the band's formation and initial breakthrough was undeniable, his exit opened the door for a new member who would not just fill the drummer's seat, but fundamentally redefine the band's entire creative universe. The search for his replacement would lead them to a man who would become arguably the most important figure in their story. In the summer of 1974, with a US tour looming and no drummer, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson held auditions. The man who walked in, Neil Peart, was unlike anyone they had seen before. He was an intellectually curious, well-read individual who approached his instrument with a scholarly intensity. His drumming style was not just about keeping time, it was a complex, polyrhythmic, and powerful force of nature. He brought with him a massive drum kit and a technical precision that was light years beyond the standard rock drumming of the day. His influences were eclectic, ranging from the thunderous power of Keith Moon to the intricate finesse of jazz legends like Buddy Rich. For Lee and Lifeson, this was a revelation. They had found their missing piece. The impact of Neil Peart's arrival was immediate and profound. With his virtuosic drumming now anchoring the rhythm section, the band's musical possibilities expanded exponentially. They were no longer confined to the structures of blues-based hard rock. Peart's ability to navigate complex time signatures and create intricate rhythmic patterns gave Lee and Lifeson the freedom to explore more ambitious and elaborate musical ideas. This new lineup, which would remain unchanged for over 4 decades, quickly moved away from their Led Zeppelin-esque roots and began to embrace the progressive rock movement, inspired by bands like Yes, King Crimson, and Genesis. The creative chemistry between the three members was electric, and a new era for Rush had begun. Beyond his extraordinary talent behind the kit, Neil Peart brought another, equally significant contribution to the band. He became their primary lyricist. While Leon Lifeson had handled the lyrics on the first album, Peart was a voracious reader of philosophy, science fiction, and classic literature, and he possessed a gift for weaving these grand themes into compelling narratives. His lyrics elevated the band's music from simple rock anthems to profound, thought-provoking compositions. Suddenly, Rush songs were telling epic stories of dystopian futures, exploring philosophical concepts of individualism, and painting vivid mythological landscapes. This lyrical depth created a unique connection with their fan base, who were drawn to the intelligence and imagination of their music. The first album to feature this new lineup and direction was 1975's Fly By Night. The title track, with its dynamic shifts and story of a young man leaving home for a new life, was a clear signal of the band's evolution. But it was the album that followed, Caress of Steel, that truly showcased their unbridled ambition with its sidelong epic, The Fountain of Lamneth. While commercially disappointing at the time, this period was crucial for the band's development. It was a time of bold experimentation where they shed their old skin and fully committed to a new identity. They were no longer just a hard rock band from Canada. They were becoming architects of a sound that was entirely their own. To understand Rush, one must understand the monumental importance of Neil Peart, affectionately nicknamed the Professor by his fans and peers. His role in the band was twofold, and in both capacities, he was an absolute master of his craft. As a drummer, he was nothing short of a revolutionary. He didn't just play the drums, he orchestrated them. His massive 360-degree drum kit was his laboratory, a sprawling array of acoustic and electronic percussion, from which he conjured some of the most intricate and memorable drum parts in rock history. His fills were not just fills, they were miniature compositions within the song, a melodic and rhythmic counterpoint to Lifeson's guitar and Lee's bass. Peart's drumming was a masterclass in precision, power, and musicality. He approached his instrument with an analytical mind, constantly seeking to push the boundaries of what was possible. He was a perpetual student of his craft, famously studying with the legendary jazz instructor Freddie Gruber in the mid-1990s to completely reinvent his grip and technique, a move unheard of for a drummer already at the pinnacle of his profession. This dedication to growth meant that his style never stagnated. From the raw power of his early work to the complex, nuanced patterns of the band's later albums, Peart was always evolving, always exploring, and always inspiring countless drummers around the world to pick up their sticks and aim for something greater. Equally vital was his role as the band's chief lyricist. Peart's words gave Rush its soul and its intellectual weight. In the 1970s, he crafted sprawling science fiction and fantasy epics inspired by authors like Ayn Rand, as seen in the monumental suite 2112. These lyrics were a far cry from the typical rock and roll themes of love and parties, instead offering listeners complex narratives about individualism versus collectivism. As the band moved into the 1980s, his focus shifted from the fantastical to the deeply personal and relatable. He wrote with profound insight about the pressures of suburban life in subdivisions, the alienation of fame in limelight, and the beauty of human connection in Closer to the Heart. His words resonated with a generation of fans who felt like outsiders, who valued intelligence, and who were looking for something more substantial in their music. Peart's lyrics were never preachy. They were observational, philosophical, and often deeply moving. He had a unique ability to articulate complex emotions and ideas with poetic grace. This combination of virtuosic drumming and profound lyrical content made him utterly unique. He was not just the engine of the band, he was its conscience and its storyteller. His contributions were so deeply woven into the fabric of Rush's identity that the idea of the band continuing without him was, for a long time, simply unthinkable. The final chapter of Rush's legendary 40-year run with its classic lineup came to a close, not with a fizzle, but with the quiet dignity that had always defined the band. After their R40 live tour concluded in 2015, Neil Peart made it clear that the physical toll of performing at such a high level was too much to bear. He was suffering from chronic tendinitis and other physical ailments, and he wished to step away from the rigors of the road to spend more time with his family. While fans held out hope for new music or a one-off performance, the band entered a period of indefinite hiatus. The music, for the moment, had stopped. Then, in January 2020, the rock world was shaken by the devastating news of Neil Peart's passing. He had been privately battling glioblastoma, an aggressive form of brain cancer, for over 3 years. The announcement sent a shockwave of grief through their global fan base and the music community at large. The loss was immense, not just because a legendary musician was gone, but because the quiet, intellectual heart of Rush had been stilled. For millions, it felt like losing a mentor, a philosopher, and a dear friend they had only ever known through his music and his words. The outpouring of tributes from fellow musicians and fans was a testament to the profound impact he had on so many lives. In the wake of this tragedy, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson were unequivocal in their statements. Rush was over. They made it clear that the band was a unique brotherhood of three, a creative democracy where each member was an essential and equal part of the whole. To replace Neil would be to betray the very essence of what Rush was. They spoke of him not just as a bandmate, but as a brother. The idea of getting another drummer to sit behind that iconic kit and play those iconic parts felt like a disservice to his memory and to the legacy they had built together. The band, as the world knew it, had ceased to exist with the passing of its irreplaceable drummer and lyricist. The silence that followed was profound. For years, fans accepted this reality with a heavy heart. Rush had always been a band that operated with integrity, and this decision was seen as the ultimate act of respect for their fallen comrade. Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson occasionally worked on individual projects or appeared as guests on other artists' records, but the mothership of Rush remained docked, a silent monument to a 4-decade journey that had reshaped the landscape of rock music. The story, it seemed, had reached its definitive and poignant conclusion. The music would live on, but the band itself was a cherished part of history. Rush's discography is, honestly, a sprawling and magnificent journey through musical evolution, with 19 studio albums and, get this, 14 platinum-selling records in the United States alone. Their legacy isn't just about commercial success. It's really about artistic integrity and relentless innovation. The true breakthrough moment that saved their career and, well, defined their path came back in 1976 with the album. You know, after the poor sales of... The band was under a lot of pressure from their record label to go for a more commercial sound, but instead, they doubled down on their progressive ambitions. The result was a 20-minute side-long title track, a dystopian sci-fi epic that turned into an anthem for individualism and artistic freedom. It was a monumental artistic statement that, honestly, connected deeply with their audience and cemented their status as cult heroes. Following the success of Dio, the band entered what many consider their golden era. The late 1970s and early 1980s saw them release a string of classic albums that somehow masterfully blended their progressive rock complexity with a more concise and accessible songcraft. Released in 1980 was a pivotal album featuring The Spirit of Radio, which is, kind of ironically, a brilliant critique of commercial radio that ended up becoming a massive radio hit. It also included the fan favorite Free Will, a philosophical musing on choice and determinism. This album really marked a shift toward shorter, more radio-friendly arrangements. But, without sacrificing any of their signature musical intricacy, a formula they would, honestly, perfect on their next release. The commercial and critical peak of their career arrived in 1981 with, for many fans, this is the quintessential Rush record, and, to this day, remains their best-selling album. It's a flawless collection of songs that have become, cornerstones of classic rock radio. The album opens with Tom Sawyer, which is arguably their most famous song, a perfect synthesis of complex instrumentation, a powerful riff, and an unforgettable vocal melody. It also features Limelight, Neil Peart's poignant reflection on the uncomfortable realities of fame, and the jaw-dropping instrumental YYZ, a track that's become a benchmark for aspiring rock musicians everywhere. Was really the moment Rush became bona fide rock superstars. Even as they reached new heights of popularity, Rush never stopped evolving. The follow-up album, released in 1982, saw the band embrace synthesizers more heavily, a move that honestly polarized some longtime fans, but produced one of their most enduring hits, Subdivisions. This track, a powerful and melancholic anthem about the conformity of suburban life, remains a fan favorite and a staple of their live shows. From the conceptual grandeur of to the polished perfection of and the synth-driven explorations of these albums represent the core of the Rush legacy, a body of work that, even decades later, continues to inspire and captivate listeners. In an era dominated by fleeting viral trends and algorithm-driven pop, the enduring relevance of a band like Rush is a remarkable phenomenon. Today, in March 2026, their music is not merely a relic of a bygone era. It is a living, breathing entity that continues to find new audiences. The intricate musicianship, intellectual depth, and timeless themes embedded in their songs have allowed them to transcend generational divides. Young listeners, discovering the band through streaming platforms, films, or television shows, are just as captivated by the power of Tom Sawyer or the complexity of YYZ as the fans who bought the vinyl records on their release day. The streaming statistics provide concrete evidence of this lasting appeal. On Spotify, Rush consistently maintains a massive audience, currently averaging over 7 million monthly listeners. This is an incredible figure for a band whose final studio album was released well over a decade ago. Their most iconic tracks have achieved staggering numbers. Tom Sawyer has soared past the 300 million stream mark, a testament to its status as a true rock anthem. Other classics like The Spirit of Radio and Limelight have also comfortably surpassed 100 million streams each, demonstrating a broad and sustained interest across their catalog. These aren't just legacy listeners. This is active, ongoing discovery. The story is much the same on YouTube, where the visual component adds another layer to their legacy. The official music video for Tom Sawyer, a time capsule of early 80s rock energy, officially crossed the coveted 100 million views milestone in 2025. Beyond the official videos, a vast ecosystem of live performance clips, fan-made tributes, and deep-dive musical analyses regularly attracts millions of views. Channels dedicated to dissecting their complex arrangements thrive as new generations of musicians and music lovers seek to understand the genius behind the compositions. This digital footprint ensures that Rush's music and story are constantly being retold and re-examined for a modern audience. The recent announcement of their 2026 reunion tour has only amplified this digital buzz. In the weeks following the news, the band's catalog sales saw a significant surge of around 30%. Fans, both old and new, have been revisiting the classic albums in anticipation of the upcoming shows, driving streaming numbers even higher. This spike in activity proves that Rush is not just a band to be respected for its past achievements. It is a vital and relevant force in the contemporary music landscape. Their digital echo is loud and clear, proving that great music, built on a foundation of skill and integrity, truly is timeless. For years, the idea of a Rush reunion was considered impossible, a fantasy whispered among hopeful fans but dismissed as unrealistic by the band members themselves. Neil Peart was irreplaceable, and his legacy was sacrosanct. However, the seeds of a potential return were unexpectedly sown during a moment of communal grief and celebration. In 2022, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson took the stage together at the Taylor Hawkins tribute concerts in London and Los Angeles. Performing a short set of Rush classics with drummers like Dave Grohl and Omar Hakim, they reconnected with the sheer joy and power of playing their music live. Lifeson later described the experience as a shot of adrenaline, a powerful reminder of the magic they created together. While not the direct catalyst, that experience undeniably softened their stance. The passion was reignited. After years of private discussion and careful consideration, in early 2026, the unthinkable happened. Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson officially announced the return of Rush for a massive reunion tour, aptly titled the 50-something Tour. The announcement sent shockwaves of excitement and disbelief throughout the music world. The question on everyone's mind was immediate: who could possibly sit behind the drum kit? The answer came in the form of Annika Nilis, a 42-year-old highly acclaimed German drummer known for her incredible technical proficiency, musicality, and deep respect for Peart's work. Her selection, after a series of private auditions in 2025, was a clear statement that this was a decision based on pure musical merit. The new lineup was further expanded with the addition of Lauren Gold, a veteran keyboardist known for his extensive work with bands like The Who and Chicago. Gold's role is to help recreate the rich, layered synthesizer textures that became a signature part of Rush's sound in the 1980s and beyond, a task that Geddy Lee handled himself on stage by juggling bass, vocals, and multiple keyboard rigs. This addition signals a commitment to delivering the most authentic and sonically complete live renditions of their catalog possible, honoring every era of the band's complex sound. The new four-piece Rush was born not to replace the past, but to celebrate it. The tour itself is a monumental undertaking. The 50-something tour is scheduled to kick off on June 7th, 2026, with an initial run of 58 dates across North America. The overwhelming demand for tickets, which saw initial dates sell out in mere hours, has already led to the announcement of further legs. The tour will head to South America in January 2027, followed by a 24-date European leg starting in February, including highly anticipated dates across the UK in March 2027. This is not a tentative, small-scale return. It is a full-blown global celebration of one of rock's most beloved and enduring legacies. The announcement of Rush's return could have been met with skepticism or even hostility. from a fan base fiercely protective of Neil Peart's legacy. However, the response has been anything but. From the moment the 50-something tour was confirmed, the reaction from fans around the globe has been overwhelmingly enthusiastic and deeply emotional. The initial batch of tour dates selling out within hours was the first clear indicator of the immense pent-up demand. Social media platforms and fan forums, once places of solemn remembrance, exploded with joyous celebration. It was as if a long-lost friend had returned, and the community was ready to welcome them back with open arms. A significant portion of this positive reception can be attributed to the way the band has handled the delicate matter of the drum throne. The choice of Anika Nilis has been widely praised. Fans, many of whom were already familiar with her impressive online presence and technical skill, have been incredibly welcoming. They see her not as a replacement for Neil Peart, but as a supremely talented musician chosen to help carry the torch and celebrate his music. Her public statements, filled with humility and a profound respect for the responsibility she is undertaking, have further endeared her to the fan base. There is a collective understanding that this is about honoring the music, not erasing the memory of its creator. Music critics and industry publications have also lauded the reunion, framing it not as a cynical cash grab, but as a heartfelt and necessary celebration of a monumental legacy. Outlets that once eulogized the band are now publishing excited previews of the upcoming tour. The narrative has focused on the courage of Lee and Leifson to step back onto the stage and the integrity with which they are approaching the project. The decision to bring in a dedicated keyboardist in Lauren Gold has also been noted as a sign of their commitment to musical excellence, ensuring the live shows will be as sonically rich and detailed as the studio recordings. The entire affair feels less like a typical band reunion and more like a cultural event. For older fans, it is a chance to relive the soundtrack of their lives one more time. For younger fans, many of whom never had the chance to see the band live, it is a dream come true. The sense of community and shared excitement is palpable. The triumphant welcome back is a testament to the deep, decades-long relationship Rush has cultivated with its audience, a relationship built on mutual respect, intelligence, and a shared love for music that dares to be different. The stage is set for a truly emotional and unforgettable tour. Embarking on a reunion after the passing of an iconic member is a path fraught with reputational risk. For a band with a legacy as pristine as Rush's, the stakes were incredibly high. A misstep could have been perceived as disrespectful to Neil Peart's memory, potentially tarnishing the integrity they had spent over 4 decades building. The danger of being labeled a nostalgia act or, even worse, a tribute band to themselves was very real. However, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson have navigated this treacherous territory with remarkable grace, transparency, and a clear focus on honoring their friend and their shared history. One of the most crucial steps they took to mitigate this risk was securing the blessing of Neil Peart's family. Before any public announcement was made, they ensured that Peart's family was supportive of the decision to tour again. The family's subsequent public statement of support was a powerful endorsement, immediately reassuring fans that this reunion was being handled with love and respect. This gesture framed the tour not as a continuation of the old band, but as a tribute performed by the people who knew and loved him best. It was a move that prioritized personal relationships and honor over business, a classic Rush characteristic. Furthermore, Lee and Lifeson have been incredibly open about the emotional challenges and motivations behind their return. In interviews, they have spoken candidly about their initial reluctance and how performing at the Taylor Hawkins tribute concerts helped them process their grief and rediscover their musical bond. They have consistently emphasized that their goal is to perform the music to the highest possible standard, not just for the fans, but for themselves and for Neil. They have detailed their rigorous rehearsal schedule, stressing their commitment to delivering note-perfect performances that do justice to the complexity and power of the original recordings. This transparency has fostered a sense of trust with their audience. Ultimately, the band has managed the risk by ensuring the entire enterprise is rooted in authenticity. The selection of a musician of Annika Niller's caliber, the addition of Lauren Gold to enhance the sonic palette, and their unwavering commitment to musical excellence all point to a project driven by artistic passion, not commercial opportunism. They are not trying to pretend that nothing has changed. Instead, they are acknowledging the loss while finding a new way to celebrate the incredible body of work they created together. They are honoring the legacy by keeping the music alive, and in doing so, have successfully transformed a potential risk into a triumphant celebration. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the incredible story of Rush, make sure you like this and subscribe for more stories behind the music.